Continuing the conversation on privacy in the digital age and what, if anything, we can do about it, I'm now joined by Salar Atrizadeh. He is an attorney who specializes in cyber laws. He's on the advisory board of the Information Systems Security Association of Los Angeles, also a member of California State Bar's Cyberspace Law Committee. What did you make of what our first guest had to say?
It was on point. It was fantastic to hear that kind of insight from someone who's been in the industry for so many years. We actually spoke beforehand and we shared some notes. I think that people need to know about what's happening, and the equation in the digital age comprises of many variables. First being privacy, security, and regulation. And in each element, in each variable, there are subcategories. For example, in privacy world, we are dealing with private actors, we're dealing with the government agencies, we're dealing with the European Commission, and the rules aren't uniform. For example, the European Union has very much more strict guidelines for privacy matters. I'll give you an example. They just recently passed a law called the Right to be Forgotten. That allows a European Union citizen to request Google to remove information about that person on the internet, so to de-index information. Whereas in the United States, we don't have those laws.
That's a good law, though.
It could be. It could be if it's not abused. Unfortunately, when we pass a law, we have bad actors that abuse that law, and it causes complications where someone like me has to deal with that issue.
You're an attorney. You
Yes.
deal with this all the time. There's no way the founding fathers could have dealt with this. So has it come up any cases to the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court has dealt with issues related to privacy matters. I mean, if we go back to the Constitution, when we're dealing with privacy, the federal and state Constitution provide some type of privacy. Going back to the Fourth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment basically prevents unreasonable searches and seizures. So it could be applied to scenarios where there's an invasion of privacy, whether in the civil case or a criminal case, but they could have not thought about the Internet of Things or cloud computing, cybersecurity related matters. But the principles remain the same. The principles remain the same. And there have been laws that have passed. For example, in the healthcare industry, we have HIPAA. In the financial industry, we have the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. So these laws have passed. Congress has been active, but there are other issues that Congress or state legislators have to deal with regarding cybersecurity, the Internet of Things and things like that.
All to protect the individual, right?
The individual and the business owners. Business owners come to me also and they say, you know, someone has gained access to our computers, they stole trade secrets, intellectual properties. How do we deal with that? What is the law? Who do we go to? And how do we get remedies? So sometimes I have answers for them, and sometimes I say the law is behind. We don't really know exactly how the law deals with this type of situation. And there are also jurisdictional issues. When someone comes in and takes a case or takes some information out of your computer, they could be all the way in Ukraine or China or Pakistan. So these jurisdictional complications come about also.
How much did you have to learn? How did you get involved in this as a specialty?
My background is computer science, and before being a lawyer, for about 6 or 7 years, I worked with Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies as an IT specialist. So I have a computer background. And when I started my practice in 2008, the security and internet world was still growing. It's still new, but the people that were coming to me were asking me questions that I knew answers to. And that led me to specializing in the internet and technology sector.
Give me an example of a typical case you might handle. You might represent someone who is saying what and needs your help with what.
That's twofold. One scenario is a private actor or a consumer coming to me and saying, my identity has been stolen. And I don't know who took my information, I don't know who took my pictures or my social security number, my credit card information. So we have to go through the process of either filing a lawsuit in state court or federal court, issuing subpoenas, and investigating the case for them. The flip side is a business owner coming to me and saying, well, we did some assessments, we may not have the right answers, but we have some kind of system that shows there was unauthorized access to our computers. So we go in and we find out when, where, why, how, what was taken, and we go through the process of assessing the case and going after the bad actors who stole the information.
Always involved civilly or sometimes criminally?
It's civil.
All civil.
The criminal cases go through the Department of Justice, the FBI,
What is cloud computing?
Cloud computing is basically a way to delegate your duties to a third party. There are different platforms for cloud computing, and everyone is using cloud computing. If you're emailing someone, your email, your basically information or communications is passing through third parties, sometimes temporarily, sometimes for a long time. And it's basically storage servers, databases that allow you and I to communicate. And basically these services are provided to you as a third-party service. When you're using a cell phone, the cell phone basically allows you to send a text message. That text message might go through hoops and hurdles, through different jumps, it's called hops, through different IP addresses to land ultimately to your friend's cell phone who might be in France. So it's not just one entity who has all the databases in one location. It's spread out.
Is there any, Salar, is there any assured privacy? A letter? A mail? The mail?
Not even the mail. Someone could open your mail inadvertently if they don't read who's being sent to. But in the digital world, it's almost impossible to have 100% guaranteed privacy. You can take precautions and some preventive measures. For example, using encryption is one thing that I would certainly recommend. Encryption allows the file to be basically closed or locked. There's a private key and a public key, and those two keys allow the opening of that specific document. So encryption is the first layer of protection. Another example, if you're banking online, make sure you use only one computer, and that computer you just use it for one purpose, which is online banking. Not many people do that. They surf the web, they go and download things, music, videos, and then they go online and do banking. The reason why I say separate the two is because if you have one computer dedicated to email, then you're not risking the fact that you're downloading viruses or malware, Trojan viruses, things like that, even spyware. These are different kinds of applications that basically infiltrate your computer, and you, without you knowing, are exposing your information. It's scanning the computer, the database, the server, and it's finding confidential information that's being passed on to third parties. So if you're accessing your website, online banking, for example, make sure the URL starts with HTTPS.
Did you agree with Mr. Goodman there are more pluses than minuses?
I'm also an optimist, to be honest with you, but being an optimist is not always enough. You have to know what you're facing. You have to take reasonable measures and to prevent risk. If we can educate the public and legislation takes action, I think the pros will outweigh the cons.
Has this led to a whole new concept of law?
Absolutely. It's basically called cyber law or internet law, which is my specialty. And these issues come up, whether it's privacy, whether it's constitutional law matters, defamation. There's something called revenge porn. 16 states.
Revenge porn?
Revenge porn.
What is that?
It's basically someone posting another person's compromising pictures, naked or semi-naked, on a third-party website without their consent. So let's say two people are dating and they feel comfortable with each other and they share intimate, basically, pictures of each other. And the person who feels disgruntled or is unhappy, wants to seek revenge, posts those pictures without the other person's knowledge on a third-party server and says, here you go, this is your whole life, everyone knows about it, I'm going to ruin your reputation. It causes emotional distress, it causes damages, they have to seek legal counsel, someone like me, to go after this person. So 16 states have passed laws, including California. New Jersey was the first state to pass a law. It made it a felony. In California, it's a misdemeanor. I believe that Congress needs to take action, and I think they're working on a bill to make a uniform law, a federal law that makes revenge porn illegal, and it constitutes a felony across the board. And the states have to follow that guideline.
Are the legislatures hip to this?
I hope so. If any of them are listening or watching this program, I would hope that they bring, the private sector actors, attorneys, and people that are involved in this industry to make a uniform law that makes sense.
You think any of these things will be discussed in the political races in 2016?
I'm almost certain, yes. It has to.
It will come up.
It's very cutting edge. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Mark talked about the Internet of Things. Yes, I actually wrote a blog about it a couple of weeks ago, and the Internet of Things is larger than the Internet. Imagine the Internet with all its interconnectivity and all this service and connections, fiber optics and all that, and then you have Internet of Things, which is smart devices, smartphones, smart homes. All these devices share information, so there are channels of communications.
I want to thank Salar Atrizadeh, right?
Yes, sir.
Got it pretty much right. And I want to thank him for joining me on this edition of PoliticKING.